Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Classical English Academy. I'm Tom.
And I'm Anna. We are so happy to have you listening with us today. If you want to take your English fluency to the next level, you are in the perfect place.
Before we jump into today's lesson, please take a quick second to like this video, leave us a comment down below with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode.
And don't forget to share this video with your friends who are also learning English. It really helps our channel grow.
Exactly. Now, today we have a very important topic that is going to completely change the way you speak. We are talking about how to train your brain to think in English.
That's right, Tom. If you are tired of slowly translating words in your head and you want to speak faster and more naturally, you need to hear this. Let's get started.
Most learners get stuck because they think in their native language first and then try to translate it into English before speaking. It's a common crutch, but it's the biggest barrier to fluency.
Exactly. It slows down your speaking and makes conversations feel unnatural. You hesitate, you pause, and you look confused while you're mentally searching for the exact dictionary equivalent of your native word. It stops the flow of communication.
The goal is to skip that middle step entirely. Instead of going from your native language to English, we want to train the brain to go straight from an idea or feeling directly to English. Think of it like a shortcut on your computer. You are trying to delete the translation file so you can access the English file faster.
I think many students are afraid to do this because they worry about making mistakes. They feel that if they don't translate word for word, they might get it wrong. But the irony is that translating word for word is exactly what makes the sentence structure sound incorrect in English.
That is such a great point, Anna. Translation often misses the cultural nuances or idiomatic expressions that don't exist in other languages. When you try to translate a phrase literally, you end up with broken English. When you think in English, you learn to use the language the way a native speaker actually uses it.
So how do we start? It's not like there is a switch in our brain we can just flip. It requires practice, like building a muscle.
It does. It starts with awareness. Throughout the day, ask yourself, am I processing this thought in my native tongue, or can I describe it using the English words I already know? Even if the sentences are simple, like, I am tired, or the coffee is hot, that is the beginning of the process.
And it's about accepting that you don't need a complex vocabulary to start thinking in English. You don't need to be a poet. You just need to be honest with your immediate thoughts. If you see a blue car, don't think about the word in your language. Just visualize the car and say the word blue car in your mind.
Exactly. By repeating this, you are creating a new neural pathway. You are effectively telling your brain that English is no longer a foreign subject to study. It is now a tool you use to navigate your daily life. It feels awkward for the first week, but once that bridge is built, you will never want to go back to manual translation again.
The easiest way to start this process is by naming the objects around you in English right when you wake up. It's like labeling your environment. You don't need to write sticky notes on everything, but you should try to mentally label items as you move through your morning routine.
Yes, it's a very grounding exercise. You look at your desk, you think desk. You hold a cup, you think cup. The trick is not to translate. You aren't saying the word in your native language and then trying to find the translation in your head. You are just connecting the physical object directly to the English sound and concept. It's a direct mental circuit.
Exactly. And it turns your mundane chores into a language lesson. People often think they need a classroom to practice, but you have a classroom everywhere you go. When you pick up your toothbrush, say toothbrush in your mind. When you turn on the shower, think water or hot. It's about building a library of images that are mapped to English, not to your native language.
Once those single words feel easy and automatic, you move to simple action sentences. This is where it gets really fun. As you walk around, narrate your life like you're the protagonist in a movie. Don't just think door, think I am opening the door.
Right, and you can keep it very basic. I am putting on my shoes. I am making coffee. I am checking my phone. By adding the subject, I, and the verb, you are starting to build the syntax of the language without needing to analyze grammar rules. You're just observing your own reality through an English lens.
And the key here is to keep it present tense. Focus on what is happening now. A lot of students struggle because they try to think about the past or the future, which forces them into complex verb tenses that make them translate. Keep it in the now, and you'll find it much easier to stay in English.
It really does change your perspective. When I started doing this, I realized how many things I saw every day that I actually didn't know the English word for. It gave me a natural reason to look up new vocabulary, not because a teacher told me to, but because I needed it to narrate my own life.
That's the secret. Motivation is the highest when the language is functional. When you see an object and you don't know the word, that's your brain signaling, I need this tool. That's the perfect time to learn.
It's almost like giving your brain a game to play. Instead of just existing in your house, you are actively observing and labeling your surroundings. It stops you from zoning out and keeps your brain engaged in English, even when you're tired.
After simple actions, you have to start having conversations with yourself in your head. We call this an inner monologue. This is the transition from just labeling the world to actually narrating your intent and reasoning in English.
Exactly. If you are making lunch, plan the steps in English. Think, now I need to chop the onions, then I will heat the pan. You are turning a silent task into a sequence of deliberate, logical thoughts. It's like being your own narrator.
It might feel silly at first, but it forces your brain to retrieve English vocabulary naturally without the pressure of speaking to another person. When you speak to others, you get nervous about grammar or pronunciation. When you speak to yourself, the only judge is you, so your brain stays relaxed and receptive.
I find that this is where the grammar starts to stick too. When you are planning, you naturally use future tense. I will do this. When you are frustrated, you use present continuous. Why am I making this mistake? You aren't studying charts. You are using the structures because you need them to solve problems.
That's a vital point. Think of your inner monologue as a sandbox or a practice field. You can experiment with complex sentences without fear of being misunderstood. If you get it wrong, you just mentally correct yourself and move on. No embarrassment, just growth.
And it's not just about tasks, it's about opinions too. When you are watching a movie or waiting for the bus, ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Or what do I think is going to happen next? Start forming those opinions in English. Instead of just seeing the world, you are interpreting it.
By doing this, you are effectively creating a secondary personality, your English self. This version of you doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be consistent. Every time you catch yourself thinking in your native language, gently nudge your thoughts back to English. Wait, how would I say that in English?
It takes discipline, especially in the beginning. The brain is lazy. It wants to go back to your native language because it's efficient and comfortable. Your inner monologue is the tool you use to override that efficiency. You are literally rewiring your cognitive habits to favor English.
And the best part, it's completely private. You can do this on the bus, in the shower, or while waiting in line. You are accumulating hours of speaking time without ever opening your mouth. When you finally do speak to someone in person, you'll find that the words come out much faster because they've already been rehearsed in the theater of your mind.
Just remember, don't aim for complex philosophical debates on day one. Start with the mundane. I should buy milk. That person looks happy. I hope it doesn't rain. Keep it simple, keep it consistent, and you will be amazed at how quickly your fluency accelerates.
To truly master this, you have to support your inner monologue by changing what your brain consumes. Your environment dictates your thoughts. If your phone, your computer, and your social media feeds are all set to your native language, your brain will naturally default to that language. You have to switch them all to English.
Exactly, Tom. It's about removing the safety net. If you have to work through English language menus, search bars, and notifications, you are forcing your brain to process English in a functional way, not just an academic one. It stops being a study session and becomes a part of your operating system.
That constant daily exposure tricks your brain into realizing that English is necessary for your everyday life, not just a subject you study in a book. It's the difference between learning a language in a classroom and living in a country where that language is spoken. You are creating a micro-immersion bubble right inside your own home.
I remember when I first did this, I was worried I would miss important notifications or get lost in my own settings. But the reality is, you already know the icons and the locations of the buttons. Your brain doesn't need to translate the words to know that the little envelope icon means email. You start to map the English word to the function without the intermediary translation.
It's profound how much time we spend staring at screens. If those hours are spent consuming English, Even just reading headlines, weather updates, or app prompts, you are stacking up hundreds of hours of passive input. It's not just about the words, it's about the context of the language.
And don't stop at the UI. Think about your entertainment. If you are watching Netflix, turn on the English subtitles. Don't use your native language subtitles. That's a distraction. If you have the English audio and the English text together, your brain starts to sync the sound with the spelling. It's the fastest way to stop reading and start hearing the language.
Right. When you are reading, hearing, and interacting with English all day, thinking in it becomes an automatic reflex. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. If the pattern it sees most often is English, it will begin to prioritize English in your thoughts. It's basically training your subconscious.
I think a lot of people fear they won't understand everything. And that's true, you won't. But you don't need to understand every single word to grasp the concept. If you are reading a post on social media and you understand 70% of it, your brain fills in the rest from context. That filling in is the exact moment where your brain begins to think in English.
That's the key. You are teaching your brain to be comfortable with ambiguity. In your native language, you never worry about not knowing a word, right? You just infer it. By immersion, we are training ourselves to use that same inference power in English.
It's a total shift from being a passive student to being an active user. You are moving from learning English to living in English. And once you make that leap, you stop translating because you no longer see the point. Why translate when the world around you is already speaking your target language?
But what happens when you are thinking in English and you realize you don't know a specific word? The instant reaction is to grab a dictionary or pull up a translation app to look it up. It feels like hitting a wall, and that frustration makes us want to quit the English-only mode immediately.
You have to resist that urge. That moment of not knowing is actually the most important part of the learning process. If you don't know the word for microwave, don't panic. Describe it instead. Think, the machine in the kitchen that makes food hot quickly.
Exactly. That technique is called circumlocution. It's a fancy word for talking around the thing you don't have a name for. When you do this, you are forcing your brain to search through your existing vocabulary to find synonyms or descriptive phrases. You are training yourself to be a communicator, not just a walking dictionary.
It also prevents the translation trap. When you stop to look up a word, you break your flow. You take your brain out of the English environment and drop it back into your native language. By describing the word, you stay entirely within the target language bubble. You keep the motor running.
Plus, it builds massive confidence. When you realize that you can explain anything, even if you don't know the technical term, you lose the fear of forgetting a word. You become a problem solver. If you forget the word for refrigerator, you just say the cold box for food. The person you are talking to will understand, and you've successfully kept the conversation alive.
It is a life skill for fluency. Even native speakers use this all the time. We all have tip-of-the-tongue moments. We say things like, "What's that thing you use to open a bottle?" instead of corkscrew. If you can do that in English, you are effectively acting like a fluent speaker.
And it's great for vocabulary retention, too. When you describe a microwave as the kitchen machine that heats food fast, your brain is doing more work than if you just read a definition. Because you created the description yourself, you are much more likely to remember the actual word later when you encounter it.
Right. It makes the language feel like a tool you own, rather than a set of rules you have to memorize. You start to see that you don't need 10,000 words to start a conversation. You only need 500 words and the ability to describe the concepts you don't yet have names for.
Describing around the missing word keeps your brain working continuously in English. It builds fluency and problem-solving skills much faster than stopping to translate. It turns every gap in your knowledge into a creative exercise.
So the next time you get stuck, don't reach for the dictionary. Pause, breathe, and describe the object, the feeling, or the action. Your brain will thank you for the extra practice, and your fluency will grow by leaps and bounds.
And that wraps up our deep dive into training your brain to think in English. We've covered everything from breaking the translation habit to the power of circumlocution.
It's been such a pleasure walking through these steps with you. Remember, this isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent. Every small step you take, like labeling an object or narrating your day, brings you closer to that goal of true, natural fluency.
We really hope you found these tips helpful and are ready to start applying them today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a huge favor. Make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment below to let us know your favorite strategy, and of course, subscribe to the Classical English Academy channel so you don't miss our next discussion.
And please share this video with your study partners or anyone else in your life who is working on their English journey. Your support helps us reach more learners like you.
We'll be back soon with more practical advice to help you master the language. Thanks for joining us, and keep thinking in English.
See you in the next one.